All right, so if you're planning to make a move to the Ann Arbor area, I want to talk about some of the common mistakes I see a lot of people make when making that move here. Okay, and a lot of folks think that, Ann Arbor is the only option they have when making a move to Ann Arbor if they got a job or they're relocating to the area because it's the biggest city in that general area. Like what's Brighton, what's Dexter, what's Saline? They look like small towns. I don't really know. Okay, and that leaves a lot of questions to be answered. So in today's video, I'm just going to walk you through, as a dad of two who did this move from California and landed in Ann Arbor. And then when we bought our first house, we actually moved to the orbit. We're in Brighton, and I want to talk about why we did that, because I want to share life with a lot of people who are looking for the exact same thing that I cherish, which is a good life for my family, an affordable place to live, great schools, and a great community that we can make amazing friends with. And hey, if you're new here, my name is Eric Meldrum, and my team and I help people just like you guys make that move here to the Ann Arbor area, whether it's Brighton, Dexter, Saline, South Lyon, Chelsea, Northville, Plymouth, you name it. Okay, and if you're making that move here in 1 month or 1 year from now, do not hesitate to reach out. All my contact information is down below in the description. You can call, text, email, or better yet, schedule a Zoom call to get your relocation plan started today so you don't make the common mistakes I'm going to talk about in this video. All right, so let's get into it. So the first thing that comes to mind when I look at some of the decisions we were making about moving outside of Ann Arbor, and this was about the same time that my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, and we were renting an apartment over by Briarwood Mall, which is on the south side of Ann Arbor. And every single Saturday, we couldn't leave our apartment because we were by the big house, which, if you know the traffic that comes along with some of the home games now, it's not every single weekend. Okay, there's about 8 games out of the season that they're going to be home games. And now this was a decade ago. Okay, and it hasn't gotten any better since then. The only thing that's gotten better is the appreciation on a lot of those homes, and the property taxes have gotten worse. Appreciation's got better, property taxes have not gotten any better. However, the houses that we were looking at just didn't fit what we were looking for, right? We were looking for kind of a quieter neighborhood, space where, was going to be a half acre or maybe even a 3/4 acre lot. That's what we were personally looking for, and that was hard to find in the city. It ended up pushing us kind of outside of Ann Arbor. And that was our first real kind of ring that we started looking at, was like, okay, well, maybe we need to get outside of the highway system. So we came across Dexter. We started looking at that. We looked at Saline, and we started to find a lot more of what we were looking for. And now it just became like, well, I don't know anything about any of these cities, so let's spend some time downtown Dexter, downtown Saline, and really start embracing some of the lifestyle there, right? And that was our way of really trying to figure out, like, could we see ourselves living here? And we started talking to people, in those communities and asking them what they liked, what the commute was like. Okay, these are the scouting trips that I talk about all the time. Is like, go act like a local. All right, come into the city. Love to meet you for coffee when you're here. We can have an initial Zoom call and get you a game plan for when you're in town. But spend some time, right? Spend some time here and actually embrace what's going on in the area. So that was our first preview into kind of getting the outer rings of Ann Arbor. And it was really, really helpful. And one day, out of the blue, we left Ann Arbor. We forgot to eat lunch. Let's stop in. Looks like Brighton's got a bunch of restaurants. And we went downtown Brighton, and we went, how do we not know about this town? And we just fell in love with the downtown. And it had everything that we kind of liked in a town. And said, hey, maybe we should put Brighton on the map, because this seems like a place that I could see ourselves living, spending a Saturday and Sunday morning, coming down, grabbing coffee, going for walks with the girls in their strollers. And as they get older, going and playing on the imagination station. And I can assure you, just fast forward to today, my girls are now 10 and 8 as of the summer. That has been everything that has happened. Okay, we are now living that dream here in Brighton. That was our little pro number 1 of moving outside of Ann Arbor, was to have a little bit more space. Now, that leads me to pro number 2, which is your money actually goes a little bit further. Okay, so when you're moving outside of Ann Arbor, you're getting lower property taxes, because a lot of these towns, you're going to have what we call township taxes. And if you're not familiar with the township taxes where you're at, it can be confusing, but there's city, municipality, and a township municipality. Okay, and that township is just a smaller version of a city. They might not have the water infrastructure, the sewer infrastructure. They might not even have their own police department. We'll get into more specifics on that. But what we found personally was our money could go further for what we were looking for. When we bought 10 years ago, we found the over a half-acre lot. Right, we have a pond in our backyard. We have, huge front yard, huge backyard, and we can barely see our neighbors. We love it. It's tree lined, it's private, it's in a quiet little subdivision, and we got exactly what we're looking for. And we couldn't be happier. So pro number 2, your money is going to go further, when you start looking in some of these surrounding cities. When we look at the average price of a home in Ann Arbor, it's creeping near about $600,000 for the average single family home. When you move to northern part of Ann Arbor, if you look at a city like Brighton or Pinckney or South Lyon, you put in Howell in there as well. You're going to vary based on the school districts, but you're going to find a single family home, anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000. Okay, and that $600,000 in some of those areas could be in one of the nicest neighborhoods, in those cities. So those are a couple of pros I want you to consider when thinking about making the move outside of Ann Arbor. And that was really what fit us. That was our story, and why that decision really kind of led us to looking outside of Ann Arbor. We got more land. We got a better, bigger home. Those are big factors, So I want to talk about a few things of the downside, because, Ann Arbor might be for you if, you're younger and you want to be close to downtown. And I say younger, but you want to be in the bar scene, right? If your whole entire life is going out on a Friday or Saturday, then, being in that mix, I get it. I was 20 something once. That has shifted for me. I'm of the generation now that, being in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock, but if you need to be in the city and in that mix, that is awesome. And con number 1 is if you want to walkable downtown and you want to be close to everything, be able to walk to restaurants, shopping, coffee shops, the university. If you're in Ann Arbor proper and you want all that stuff, you want to be able to walk to dinner, you want your kids to walk to school, out in the orbit, some of those areas are a little bit harder to find that. Okay, you're definitely going to be, in some subdivisions where bus routes, are probably going to be the pickup zone, or you're going to have to drive your kids to school like we do. We don't live walking distance to downtown. We're hopping in the car and heading downtown to go grab coffee, go grab dinner, and do what we need to do. However, we do like that. We like the idea of having our neighborhood and then going downtown. So if driving everywhere is not an option for you, then definitely consider living in the downtown area of Ann Arbor. And con number 2 is that you're going to commute pretty much everywhere you go. Okay, if you're outside of Ann Arbor, like I said, if you want walkability, the only option is to commute. Okay, we don't have a mass transit system, in Ann Arbor. Now, Ann Arbor does have a really good bus, but it's not a train. There's no underground. There's not the New York or Chicago train that goes out into the burbs and you can come in, but we don't have any of that, so if you are living outside of Ann Arbor, your only option is to drive into the city. Now, con number 3 is one that people really don't realize until we're talking specifically about the real estate and the type of land and type of property that you're going to find in some more of these rural kind of smaller towns. And if you are looking for acreage, if you're chasing land and you want a lot more space, the more rural you get, you're going to be on well water and septic systems. Okay, if you aren't familiar with those systems, there's nothing to worry about. Okay, so I just want to rest assured. The only con that I want to raise is that you will be switching. So if you aren't familiar with that, this is your opportunity to start doing some research on what is a septic system and what is well water. Okay, everybody, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people here in Michigan live on those, so you don't need to worry about it. It's very common. All right, so I will say the quiet part out loud, and some people just want to say we live in Ann Arbor. Okay, as a status quo, we do live in Ann Arbor. If that address does matter to you, okay, I understand it. Okay? I'm not gonna point fingers or blame anybody. Then the orbit won't even scratch that itch for you. It's just no judgment. Just do your thing. Be honest with yourself about it though. And one more thing, because I'd rather you hear from me, 20 minutes outside of the city isn't automatically cheaper once you add it all up. If you're buying a new construction or you're buying on a lake, you can absolutely pay Ann Arbor prices, in some of the surrounding areas. There's a home for sale right now in Brighton, Michigan for $6.9 million. Okay, now it's on the lake. It's one of the fanciest, coolest houses I've seen. Now the interior, a little bit questionable on some of the design choices. It's very specific to taste. However, those prices do exist in all the surrounding areas. So when you're faced with this question of living in Ann Arbor or some of the orbit areas, the biggest question to ask yourself is, what is important to you? Okay, what is important to the lifestyle? Do you want to be near a downtown? Do you want to have access to all of the walkability, the parks? Do you want to just actually call your home Ann Arbor? Like when somebody says, where do you live? Like, I live in Ann Arbor. Okay, awesome. Then the city might be a better fit, for you. But if you're looking for something a little bit more small town feel, good schools, just quiet neighborhoods, just everything that I was looking for. I just go back to my personal experience, with that. We were just looking for a little bit more quiet, a little bit slower pace of life, a community that we could just see raising our girls, where we go to a school and we pretty much know everybody, right? And I have that right now. Is my wife hates it because she can't walk downtown Brighton with me without bumping into 15 people I know. Okay, that's just where we're at in life. I'm not mad about it. I love it. I love my people. I love you guys, and I love helping you guys make this move. So I want to end with this. If you are making the move to Ann Arbor, any of the surrounding areas, reach out to me, because a lot of the times, if you just have a simple conversation around your lifestyle and what you're going for, my team and I can point you in the right direction, whether it's a better fit for Plymouth, Northville. We just help 2 families, buy in Northville specifically. Okay. So having a conversation can really help narrow in what cities are best fit for you, because right now you're just looking at a map. And I know how difficult that is to just look at a map and start doing some research. So I want to invite you to book that call with me and get your process started. So link is down in the description, and I will see you guys on the next one.